Hi Tessa, how you doing? Got your work up here. And I got Moose up here. Awesome. I think this is a good job. I think you're definitely, I mean, one of the most important things here is you've really exposed the dog's personality. And that is part of the whole narrative. So I think it's a very, very successful job in terms of defining the narrative and telling a story. Okay, so that is, I think that's done very well. Now, one of the parts of the story, I want to talk about a little bit about composition, and then I want to talk about a little bit about the technical merits of each of your shots. So, in terms of the narrative, as I said, I think you've got it set up beautifully. In terms of composition, there's one thing that I think we need to take a look at. And you're not the only one. It seems like a lot of students kind of fell in this little trap. And you won't do it again when you do another narrative photography assignment, because this will be something that will be in the front of your mind. While you're presenting a visual narrative or any kind of visual story at all, you want to remain as consistent as possible. Okay, imagine a book. Okay, imagine you're turning the pages of the book, and imagine the first paragraph is this big. Okay, and then the second page, you turn the page, and the paragraph is this big. Okay, then you turn the page again, and there's a little paragraph here, and then a big paragraph here. Okay, and then you turn the page again, and there's a different kind of arrangement of paragraphs. Eventually, you're going to go, not eventually, but immediately, you're going to go, wow, this is weird. Why does it keep changing like that? And the same thing can be said about a visual narrative here in terms of your visual presentation for your photographs, is that each time we turn a page, well, I shouldn't say each time, because the first three pages are very consistent, but then on page 4, we jump into this completely different orientation. You go from you go from a horizontal orientation to a vertical orientation. So the first 3 pages, you've kind of set up this really good job setting this cadence up so that the viewer kind of gets used to what's going around. And then again, synonymous to the paragraphs on a page falling within the same spot in every page, every time you turn a page. So there's some consistency. By page 3, the viewer is really set into this consistency where you're allowing this cadence to start to develop itself. Then we turn the page, and then all of a sudden the viewer gets kind of jarred a little bit, because this composition is completely different, being that it's vertical in orientation as opposed to horizontal, and being that it's a tall, thin picture instead of a shorter, wide picture. The negative space itself is jarring because the viewer looks at it and goes all of a sudden goes, well, something just changed. Subconsciously, the viewer's going, okay, this just changed. I'm wondering why. Does it make sense? And the mind is starts going in a different direction other than where you want it, and that's concentrating, concentrating on the images themselves. We have another change here, and another change here, and then finally another change at the end. Okay, so that I would definitely recommend cropping consistently. Okay, so this right here, let me just bring up this is 13.47 by 8.99. Okay, and then it looks like the first 13.3 is a little bit different. 13.7, but that's the same. Then all of a sudden you go 8.6 by 13.47. So that's really a drastic difference. And then so on and so forth. This one is 10 by 13, roughly, and then 13 by 20 something. So that, again, that's just an enormous image. Look how big that is compared to the other images. And then finally, this final image is 13.33 by 6.29. So what I'm saying is establish an image size. I think this would be fine, 13.7 by 8.99, or 8 by 14, or something along the lines of a normal 11 by 14, a typical photo size, 8 by 10, 11 by 14. And you can just research standard photo sizes, and you'll see that 8 by 10 and 11 by 14 are both 2 of those standard sizes. So this would probably be best at 11 by 14 as a crop, or go 8 by 10 or 10 by 8. Now in design, it's always the width always comes first. So 8 by 10 indicates 8-inch width by a 10-inch length height. And conversely, if it's a 10 by 8, it would be 10 inches wide and 8 inches high. So then what I would do is I would just go ahead and crop these accordingly. So this one could be, I mean, feasibly, you have this rectangular format here. This you could crop, this image you could crop like this and not lose any information. Even if you wanted to get the hand in there, the hand might be kind of tough because you're going to have to really kind of back off that. Okay, but you see what I'm saying? So, and you have those the other you have information on the side. You're basically shooting at the same focal distance of the subject, so that you have room to crop your images to make them all the same size. So again, over here, this is a great image, by the way. And again here, again, you wouldn't be losing anything if you were to crop this in an orientation that would be more accommodating to 8x10, or that the same consistency therein. You know, and then by the end of the narrative, we get to know the dog. The dog's day starts out kind of lumbering around, just like my dog. Then he starts to get a little active, starts someone wants to play, and then he gets really active and really wants to play, and that's all he wants out of life is to play. And then he just kind of gives this kind of little pensive mood where he has this interaction with the human beings, and then we go on our rides and we take him out and we take him to his activities and all that. And then by the end of the day, he's starting to chill a little bit, and a little bit later, he's down. So I really enjoyed that about the narrative. I think the cadence, I'm sorry, the order in which you presented your work is really interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and take some look at some of the technical merits. Good job converting black and white. I think it was a really good idea to do. I think it really shows a lot of the texture in your dog that probably wouldn't be seen in color. It adds a lot of kind of a personal relationship as well. I think black and white always has a psychological effect on the viewer. It adds a little bit more of a connection with the viewer and the subject. So good job there. Now, a couple of issues we have, and you did mention this a little bit in your writing, but we have some issues here. This is called blown out. This is blown to complete white, meaning that there's a little too much camera, a little overexposure going on here, meaning that this right here, this area right here, doesn't have any detail. It's just basic paper white. It's not too bad there, but like area like that is just looking at pure white. So there wouldn't be any detail in the animal's fur, in Moose's fur. This one is pretty good. See all this detail right here through here in the shadow area? It's really a great job. But again, some exposure inconsistencies. And a lot of this is based on the fact that you're shooting in direct overhead sunlight. And that, of course, always presents inherent problems. But you've preserved a lot of detail in the shadow areas very, very nicely, with the exception of right here, pure black, and then some areas right here, pure black. So those would be yours, and then pure white is right here. So this area right here is got no detail in it. So those are some exposure issues that will be mentioned. I think you've done a good job. I mean, this is direct sunlight. Looks like there's no shadow. So this is overhead, roughly probably around noon. So for you to be able to preserve some detail in the grass, I think was a really neat job. And the water splashes, really cool stuff. Love it. Love it. I know we talked about cropping too. You know, in this image, I'm thinking that, you know, maybe something like that could be really interesting, because you don't really need all of this stuff in the background. It's just it's called visual clutter, and I know it's a derogatory term, but basically it means things that are not necessary to understanding the composition and the narrative of the individual image. So think about a crop like that would not take away anything, but it would add to what's already there. I hope that makes sense. This is a good shot. A little bit of motion blur right here. I think if you would have close down that shutter speed, so that that shutter speed just opens for just 1/250th of a second, or it's something where you just don't have that blur right there. The dog is definitely moving, the hand is moving, and we're seeing motion in both. So I'm not real sure you want that. Also, again, you know, some of the background clutter. I love this shot. I think it's a great shot. I mean, every time I see this shot, and this is not a new concept, but we've seen this shot before. But I always look at it, I'm all like, God, would you watch the road? But you're in the passenger seat though, so good. I'm not worried. I've had students turn images where you can tell they're driving, and it's like, oh God, watch the road, please, please be safe when you're shooting. This is such a good shot that shows Moose's personality just wonderfully. This image is beautifully exposed. There's no areas that are blown to complete black or white. You've got detail throughout, even in problem areas right up through here, where that's probably getting the main sunshine right there. And look at the tongue, the cracks in the tongue, and just all this wonderful detail. So that's a fabulous shot. So is this. This is a good shot too. A little bit area right here where it's complete white. Losing some detail there. But other than that, I think you've done a fantastic job. Just got a couple of comments. I'll have a couple of comments for you in grading, but nothing major at all. I think it's really done very well, as is the process of telling the story and the narrative itself. Be careful with sticks, which as you guys know, I'm a dog lover. I got my Ralphie right over there. Ralphie, come on over here. He's not going to come over here. I wanted to introduce you. But anyways, he's a big 90-pound pit bull and just sweetest disposition. And he likes to chase sticks, but I don't throw sticks at him because I know it's really dangerous, because sometimes if you throw a stick, the dog will try to catch it, and I know that it can cause some injury. So be careful with your dog. I don't mean to be telling you what to do with your dog. I'm sorry. It's just the animal lover in me coming out. So fantastic job. Love it. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or other, please let me know. Great class and really enjoyed having you. Thank you.